It was all going so well with my L322 until... oh no! Today I'm going to test drive a newer TDV8 L322 Range Rover to find out if it's time to just cut my losses and get rid of my current one, and if I should spend a little bit more and upgrade. My L322 Range Rover is a little bit poorly, but remember, I only paid £2,000 for this gorgeous specification of a car. But ever since my dream M6 arrived, it's taken up a lot of my time, energy, resources, i.e. money, to keep on top of. And it does mean, regretfully, this beautiful thing has been left a little bit to the wayside. But despite that, since I picked this car up, I think about 10 months ago, we've covered, me and my wife, this is my wife's main car, 4,500 miles, which I don't think is too bad going considering the Jaguar XF is our primary daily driver. However, yes, it has now got some issues, and I think it's got to the point where it's sort of screaming at me and saying that you can't ignore me anymore, you need to get me looked at. I need some attention, and so yes, I think it is time that this L322 needs some money spent on it. See, most animals have noises they make to show distress, similar with humans in fact. Toddlers and babies cry to let you know that they need something. With the Range Rover it's slightly different. It goes bong. It makes noises, yes, but it also does things which are rather unpleasant, and let me describe some of those now. So we know the gearbox hasn't been its best since I picked the car up, but we did spend a fair bit of time and money getting the thing serviced. So we had it oil changed, and we did the sump and the filter and all the rest of it, and it did improve the gearbox somewhat, but you can hear very distinctly that the humming noise, there it is back. I think it's torque converter related, but more recently I've started to get a little bit of gearbox judder. It's not wheel wobble, it's not the balancing of the tyres, it is definitely a under here judder coming from the gearbox. Well, it's either gearbox or the engine, so either way it's not great. And then the second thing that happened, which was a little bit more visual, was the forsaken engine light. In fact, I've never had an engine light on the 3 L322s that I've owned up till now, so it's a little bit disconcerting to see. Now, I'll be honest with you, I did read it on my fancy little code reader thing, and it was just an O2 sensor. So immediately, I'm not panicking about that, but it does have an almighty rattle on startup, probably something to do with the guides. And I've not had the engine itself serviced since I bought the car, so that's definitely now overdue. But it's absolutely not my plan to neglect this thing. It's just asking for trouble if you start doing that with a 23-year-old Range Rover. In fact, I've got a really long list of things that I want to get sorted on this, and my plan still, I think, is to go down the route of doing a full-on restoration of this car, but more on that in a bit. In fact, I'm going to pull over right now and just share with you this list I've got on my phone, this almighty list I have of all the things that need doing and I want doing to this Range Rover. Are you ready for this? Leaking exhaust, in brackets noisy, yeah, it's a little bit, sounds a bit straight pipes down here. Sunroof rattle, it rattles up here. Headlight washers, those little windscreen wipers on the headlights don't work. Gearbox hesitant torque converter, engine rattle on startup when cold, full service, brakes, rear tail light, sagging headliner, loose trim pieces, non-OEM steering wheel, tearing screen, no sat-nav CD, no TV, convert to new aerial, period incorrect wheels, I still need to sort those, the tyres, rear arch corrosion, weird clicking when you unlock the car, lumbar button, driver's side, broken. That's just the mechanical bits. How long have you got? Because by the way, there's a whole list for cosmetics. Here we go. Roof and bonnet lacquer peel, front and rear bumper scratches, removed mud flaps, removed tow bar, I've actually done that now, incorrect rear heated seat trim piece, that's very minor, but it's incorrect nonetheless, and incorrect side repeaters. Yeah, there's a fair bit there to be getting on with, isn't there? I think it's going to cost me well in excess of £5,000 to get everything on that list sorted. So should I just cut my losses now and buy a newer, more economical Range Rover? Let's find out. So I'm in this lovely TDV8 L322 Range Rover to find out. Lovely channel viewer Alex has thrown me the keys to this for a few hours today to see, well, how I like it. My 2002 L322 Range Rover is at the point now where it needs work, and I'm not shy of getting extensive work done on cars. You don't have to look far down my channel to realise that. But my wife and I are in a predicament where we have the Jaguar XF, which is a 3-litre diesel for our daily duties. And that is a lovely thing. It's also very cheap to run and actually just excellent in every way. However, when we take that out and see our L322 on the driveway, we feel a little bit disappointed that we're not taking that. But the fact is that is a much more expensive car to run. You realistically can't get much more than 17 or 18 miles per gallon driving that thing. And as I mentioned, it's at the point now where I think the gearbox might need replacing and it just needs various other bits of work. So my thought is whether we could consolidate our L322 and Jag into maybe one of these. One with a diesel engine, it's cheap to run, but still gives us that L322 feel, that agricultural experience that we so love. So that's why I'm having a little spin in Alex's car today to see if this is a car that I think my wife and I would like to have as our daily driver. Straight away, the engine and gearbox just feel fantastic. That is really the thing that I'm after, is this 4.4 TDV8. Everyone swears by it. I had a 3.6 TDV8 before, which was great, but it's just missing that 8-speed gearbox, which you only got with this. It's just got such effortless torque at the low end, which my petrol car certainly doesn't have. The 3.6 did, but this engine sounds far less agricultural than that 3.6. The design of everything inside the dashboard and the view you get out the front is ever so slightly different to the original L322 like mine, but I was a little bit worried it would detract from the experience. It doesn't. I still very much feel like I'm driving my own L322. The seating position is just sublime, as it always is. The armrest, it just matches up perfectly with where you want to put your elbow on this side, and it is supremely comfortable. In fact, this is a nicer example than my L322. It's on better tyres. It's got its alignment all sorted out, which mine doesn't, but it rides really nicely actually. This feels like a much softer ride than my car. And already we're bettering the 16 miles per gallon that I got on my 30-minute journey down here this morning in my car, already at 16.2. Now, although my petrol car does now need a fair bit of work, it has in the last 5,000-6,000 miles since I bought it been an absolute joy. It's not needed anything. And to be quite honest, the earlier petrol cars like mine are ever so slightly more simple than these. These obviously introduced 2 turbos with these diesel V8s. They have DPFs and all the sort of emission regulation stuff that goes along with it. And so they are known for causing maybe a few more frequent issues than the earlier cars. However, they're at an age now where they're very well, understood. They're very well known. So all of these things are documented extremely well by forums and owners you speak to. There's lots of known issues and known workarounds and maintenance schedules that you just need to follow if you own one of these cars. So I'm not at all scared by that. And I know some people will say the 3.6 is the slightly more reliable car, but as mentioned, I'm kind of discounting that already because I want that 8-speed box for the better fuel economy. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on is, of course, the elephant in the room, which is L405. That would potentially be a more sensible thing to do because these L322s now are fetching, well, for nice examples, similar money to a lesser nice example of an L405. And the L405 on paper is a infinitely better car than the L322, but it certainly doesn't have the same charm. And I have to say, after driving a very nice L405 at the bottom of the market fairly recently, I'm not finding this feels any less comfortable, any less powerful, any less usable, and it certainly seems just as efficient. This is a really good test, sort of 40 miles an hour going up a hill, and yeah, I just don't need much throttle input to maintain the speed here. It's a charming and effortless thing to drive. So one thing I can say for a fact is that my wife would love this. I think she wouldn't miss our petrol one if I came home with this. She would very quickly just get used to the fact that this is the L322 we now have. It feels, in terms of the position and the feel, very similar. The main difference is it just has a power plant that's able to carry the weight a lot more efficiently. This does make a lot more sense, and most of our journeys that we do, personal journeys they're longer distance. So again, having a diesel is perfectly fine for us. Oh my goodness, look at that. I don't think the camera can see it. There's a 8 series there. Oh, that's an unexpected joy. Very nice. I think my wife would also appreciate the additional refinements you get in this. It would need to be at least a Vogue SE, which is what this car is, because you then got the heated and cooled seats, still have a heated wheel. Like I say, adaptive cruise control is potentially a good thing to have. Also deployable side steps. Now I know they can be a pain, but that's something we'd probably be after, and you could obviously get these deployable side steps on later L322s. And of course, if you go for something like an autobiography, you get a leather stitched headliner amongst a few other refinements, which I think, yeah, just all really lovely things to have. And actually, yeah, I mean, I'm going to say it now, I feel like this is the perfect blend between L322 feeling like an agricultural farm vehicle, which is where the charm comes from, and being something luxurious that you want to drive every day. So, to be honest, I don't really need to drive this much more. I'm very impressed, and I think I might be sold on upgrading the Jag essentially to one of these. But to be honest, this has now become more of a discussion about upgrading my Jaguar XF to a TD-V8 Range Rover. One thing I've realised driving both of these L322s back to back is that my one is, well, quite special. So I don't think it'd be right to sell it for scrap money, and I don't think it'd be right to let it go to waste. I think it makes sense to continue with it and to get it back to its former glory. So listen, driving that TD-V8 Range Rover was really interesting, and it's actually put my mind quite straight. That car exceeded my expectations, and I think it would make a fantastic replacement to our Jaguar XF. But since then, I've toyed with the idea of selling this car, but what I've realised is that in its current state, it's a bit of a project. So despite the fact, in my opinion, it's such a gorgeous and very rare spec, it's not really worth all that much money right now. So for the sake of chopping this in for a couple of grand, I think maybe I should just keep it. So that's why right now I'm heading down to Portsmouth to Glenrand's new HQ, because I'm going to drop the car off there this week. They're going to give it a full looking over and essentially come back to me with some numbers on what it needs. How much money does this need spending on it, certainly to just get those mechanicals okay, and then we can look into the cosmetic bits as well. I'm really excited by this because I've never sort of restored a car, and listen, it's not going to be a quick turnaround, let me tell you that, but I think it's going to be a worthwhile one. So as always, I'll welcome your opinions down below in the comments. Do you think I'm making the right choice by keeping this and bringing it back up to its former glory over a long period of time, replacing the XF with another L322, but one that's far more economical than this? Yeah, I want to hear your opinions below, but I think for once in my life, I've got a fairly straight idea of what I'm going to do. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one very, very soon.